guys, welcome to Signal Path. Today we are talking about the Duophony from GFI system. This incredible, complex, really layered release from GFI is something I've been really excited to talk about and to explore for a while. You can't really see it, but behind me is a desk full of random pedals that I couldn't help but just like kind of run to the cabinet to find so that we could, kind of explore together with some of what's possible. But if you're not familiar with what the Duophony is, it is a box that is laden with ins and outs of the mono and stereo variety. But basically what this boils down to is two stereo loops that are basically creatively routable. And so what this begins with is your first exploration is probably kind of variable proportions of parallel mixing. And it does that incredibly well. And so you can do things like have reverb in one loop and delay in one loop and do that classic kind of 80s kind of summing mixer sound. It lets you do things like mixing and blending different kinds of modulations, different kinds of dirt, where you can choose to have them completely uninteractable, where they do not actually touch each other until they have blended back into the main signal. And all the while you're able to mix in your dry signal underneath it. So for things like bass, for things like distortion, where you kind of wish that there was a tamer way to handle some of those dirt moves, this is possible with the Duophony. I had a ton of fun picking two crazy sounds where it is like a pitched delay and a lo-fi kind of crunchy or just like crazy modulation, and finding like the best of both of those sounds while also being able to steer away from some of the worst of those sounds. If you've ever had a pedal that you wish had a mix knob, this does that. It does essentially all the things that you would need from a mix knob, albeit the workflow is a little bit different. I will kind of get into what some of that looks like practically speaking, but the ability to engage, to mute those loops, all of those things, incredibly useful. And beyond that, what I think that kind of the final layer, and for ambient players, this is going to be the thing I think that speaks the most, is that you have the ability to creatively modulate between the loops and modulate their overall mix level, and that creates incredible opportunity for sweeping, ambient, kind of looping arrangements where you place a looper in one of these breakout loops, and you can use that to kind of create motifs that swell in and out. There is a myriad of creative uses for the Duophony. We're going to touch on a few of them and some of my favorite pairings from kind of the day spent just exploring. And I think if you're somebody who has a collection of pedals that you're enjoying and want to take it to the next level, this is something that is perfect for that. If you are looking, there are a couple incredible special use cases. Not to get too far into it because we're about to talk about it, but things like blending amps, that's something we will talk about, and that is not novel to this video, and I'll link to a couple other resources that explain some of the ideas that I find the most compelling about the Duophony in the description. So there's a ton to explore here, but if you are just looking for kind of how to take your existing pedal board to the next level, or looking to solve a couple of unique problems in sound design and pedal board design, I think this is an incredible resource for that. So yeah, let's jump into it.
Okay, let's take a look at the Duophony. I am playing a Suhr Alt T Pro through the Kali 76 Stacked Edition into the Saturn 6 and the Illumin Reverb. It sounds something like this. And this is the Duophony. Right now you're listening to the Gen Loss in Loop X and the Reverse Mode C in Loop Y. have kind of control over each of the kind of proportional blends. In addition to the proportional controls, we have the ability to control overall gain of the effect. Let's bring back that delay. So as I set the overall blend, I'm able to actually affect one side versus the other. So we could add kind of one side a little bit more delay heavy and the other side a little bit more gen loss heavy. That sounds pretty crazy on its own. When you add things like delay and reverb and kind of allow those things to smear and reinterpret, you start to get these really beautiful arrays of stereo sound. So in addition there, what we're able to do on top of the ability to sort of choose how much goes into each channel in these stereo arrays, we're able to also blend in our dry signal. So here's just the dry signal, just the gen loss. Really useful for effects like the generation loss where there's no real mix control. And something that this allows you to do is by way of blending your relative blend of the generation loss. So let's bring this kind of back to even for each channel. By then choosing how much dry signal we want, we can kind of create sort of faux chorus sounds that may not be in a proportion that the original pedal even allows. This is really nice for certain kinds of drive and distortion effects. That's something we'll talk about a bit later with stereo distortion and some of those kind of useful applications. But for ambient applications, I find this really useful. The fact that you can have something that is totally bypassed, engaged, and then even while this is engaged, you have the ability to, by pressing those knobs, control if an effect is engaged. So we have the ability to do that where we can control dry signal, control the relative balance. but we can actually kind of creatively reroute this. So we're in parallel mode currently. But if we come down here, we can change it to series. And this operates just like a normal pedal board. So now, X is rolling into Y. And we have the same ability here to roll in our dry tone. One of the most exciting features within the Duophony is the ability to actually pan and modulate the overall blend of the effects that you're using. And one of the most the most immediate things that springs to mind with a functionality like this is the ability to create movement in composition and the ability to kind of create ambient compositions that have some level of evolution. So I have the mood and the habit from Chase Bliss in the individual loops, and I've frozen some sound that then we can then modulate between and sort of create like a static layer in the mood, and then something that has a little bit more movement and change within the habit. So if we roll this up, now we can modulate between the two. Let's check out what the Duophony sounds like with 2 dirt pedals in the loop. So first, we can listen to the Delmar. And now the Kilt. Thicker, darker, a little bit more even. But what's really awesome is you can blend these together in the loops and then kind of create your own dirt sound. It's bring in a clean blend. My last trick is probably for some the main event for what Duophony offers. And what I've done here is I've done something that I think a few people have really covered well, but Mark Johnston was the person to bring this concept to me, and I'll link his video in the description if you want kind of an in-depth dive of some of his thoughts, because they're really, really detailed, really incredible thoughts on how this saves him time mixing for those incredible intro songs when he's using the Ruby and Dream or Lion now, as the case may be. But I have the Ruby and the Dream in each of the loops of the Duophony, and this is not a new concept, but it's something that I find incredibly useful. This will be realistically speaking, the main way that I use Duophony moving forward. It is such an exciting approach to dialing in sounds. It gives you a ton of flexibility, and it works very, very well live the couple of times that I've used this approach. But what it lets you do is, if you're not fully sold on the deluxe vibe of an amp, it lets you kind of dial away from that. It lets you sort of say, okay, we want, some cutting chime, we want some, presence, and that nice bright guitar that I think the Ruby pulls off so well without feeling harsh. Or you can kind of dial in like a blend of the two, right? And so you can say, I want, a little more body. That tends to be kind of where I live, but where it gets really exciting is the ability to split the difference on the left and right channels and kind of go 70-30 on each side. What this allows you to do is create subtle differences in your left and right signals. makes the sound feel like it's enveloping you a little bit more. I find that when my amps feel subtly different left to right, that I need less modulation. I need less things kind of separating to feel like sounds are big. Straight down the middle again. This feels, you know, big and warm and like a warm blanket. But when you kind of sway it all the way over, just feels a lot more organic. And then if you really just need to have the hard pan again, you can do that. And now we're back to hard panned. So it's really only an upgrade if you're using kind of two different amp sims, or you know, two different drive pedals, or I mean, I can even go here, and if we, you know, if we want sort of just one for the day, stereo dream territory, and stereo Ruby territory. So I would say get used to seeing this in the amp rig, because I think this is the way forward for me. But yeah, that's the Duophony.